The last time I sat at that dining table, my brother threw a glass of wine in my face and told me I was a waste of space. My father didn't even look up from his plate. My mother just handed him a napkin. That was 5 years ago. Last week, I bought the building they were sitting in, watched till the end to see the look on their faces when they found out. My name is Claire. And this is the story of how I went from being the family disappointment to the only name they couldn't afford to ignore. I grew up in a big house. Not a happy house, but a big one. My father, Richard, was a real estate developer. He wasn't a billionaire or anything you see in movies, but in our town, he was somebody. He drove a black Mercedes and people said yes sir to him. My mother, Eleanor, was the perfect socialite wife. Thin, blonde, and always dressed for an event that didn't exist. And then there was my brother, Mark. He was 3 years older than me. In my father's eyes, Mark could do no wrong. He was the heir. The one who would take over the business. The one who mattered. I was just Claire. I wasn't the pretty one, like my mother wanted. I wasn't the business-savvy one, like my father wanted. I was quiet. I liked to read. I liked to draw. I liked to fix things. If a lamp broke, I wanted to take it apart and see how it worked. If the Wi-Fi went out, I was the one who figured out how to reset the router. I and my family, that wasn't seen as smart. It was seen as weird. Claire, put that book down and go put on some makeup, my mother would say. You're not going to catch a husband by knowing how to fix a toaster. I was 18 at the time. I didn't want a husband. I wanted to go to college for engineering. I wanted to build things. When I told my father this at dinner one night, he actually laughed. He put down his fork and looked at my mother. She wants to be an engineer, he said, like it was the punchline of a joke. Mark snickered. An engineer? You mean, like, fix cars? It's more than that, I mumbled, my face burning red. It's a waste of money, my father said, his tone shifting from amusement to authority. You're not smart enough for that kind of school, Claire. You're barely scraping by in math. You'll go to the community college for 2 years, maybe take some art classes, and then you'll find a nice man to settle down with. That's the path for you. I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream that I got a B+ in calculus. That I understood physics better than Mark understood basic multiplication. But in that house, you didn't argue with Richard. You just sat there and took it. So I took it. For years, I took it. I went to the community college. I took the art classes. I smiled and nodded while my mother set me up with the sons of her country club friends, men who talked about stocks and golf and looked at me like I was a piece of furniture. I was miserable. But I was also, quietly, building something. While I was at community college, I wasn't just taking art. I was taking every computer science and web design elective they offered. The school had a crappy website, and I asked the IT department if I could help redesign it for free, just for the experience. They said yes. I taught myself coding at night. I built websites for local pizza shops and hair salons for $50 a pop. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't the big engineering school I had dreamed of. But it was mine. It was the one thing my family didn't know about. I remember one Christmas, I was maybe 21. I had just finished building a pretty complex e-commerce site for a local boutique. I was proud of it. At dinner, my father was bragging about Mark, who had just closed a deal on a small apartment building. Mark's a natural, my father said, clapping him on the shoulder. He's going to take my business further than I ever could. I tried to join the conversation. That's great, Mark. I actually just finished a project that, my mother cut me off. Claire, honey, no one wants to hear about your little computer hobby. Pass the potatoes. My little computer hobby. That was me. That was my life. A little hobby. Mark looked at me with that smirk he always had. Still playing on your computer? You know they have people in India who do that for pennies, right? You're wasting your time. I felt that familiar sting of tears behind my eyes, but I blinked them away. I stayed silent. I passed the potatoes, but something shifted in me that night. It wasn't anger. It was a cold, quiet clarity. I realized that I was never going to get their approval. I was never going to be Mark. So why was I still trying to play their game? I went home to my tiny one-bedroom apartment that night. It was in a bad part of town. The radiator clanked and the neighbors fought until 3 a.m. But I had my computer. And I had a plan. I stopped trying to fit in. I stopped going to the family dinners where I was just an afterthought. I stopped answering my mother's calls when I knew she was just going to complain about my life choices. I focused, I threw myself into work. I got a job at a small tech startup. It wasn't Google or Apple. It was 5 guys in a warehouse, trying to build a software platform for small businesses. They paid me peanuts, but they let me do everything. I coded, I designed, I fixed the coffee machine. I learned the business from the inside out. The startup grew. Slowly at first, then faster. That company, the one I joined as employee number 6, ended up getting bought by a major corporation 3 years later. I was 27 years old. My share of that buyout? $2 million. I remember sitting in my apartment. I still lived in the same crappy apartment. I was too busy to move, staring at my bank account on my laptop. $2 million. With commas, most people would have gone out and bought a sports car. Or a house. I did something else. I took that money and I started my own company. A software company. I built tools for local businesses to compete with the big guys. The same kind of work I had been doing for pizza shops when I was 19, but now on a massive, automated scale. It was hard. Really hard. There were times I almost went bankrupt. There were nights I slept on the floor of our first real office. I hired people, I fired people, I pivoted the business model 3 times. I didn't talk to my family at all during those years. Not because I was mad, but because I simply didn't have the time or energy for their negativity. Then, when I was 32, it happened. We hit it big. Huge. A major retail chain adopted our software. Then another. Then we got written up in a big national business magazine. Overnight, my little company was a major player. I was a CEO. A real one. I wore suits to meetings now, not hoodies. I had a corner office with a view of the city. I had 150 employees, and my family? They had no idea. They were still living in the same bubble. My father's business, the one Mark was supposed to take over, had been struggling for years. The market had changed, and they hadn't changed with it. They were dinosaurs, trying to sell land in a world that was buying dated. I knew this because, even though I didn't talk to them, I kept a distant eye on them. A little voice in my head, the hurt 18-year-old, wanted to know if they ever missed me. They didn't. Their social media was full of pictures of fancy parties and Mark's new boats. They were living on borrowed money, projecting an image they couldn't afford. I could have stepped in. I could have helped. But they never asked. And honestly, I was still that quiet girl at the dinner table. I was too scared to reach out. Then came the day that changed everything. I was in a meeting with my CFO, going over the quarterly projections, when my assistant, a sweet girl named Sarah, knocked on the door. "Claire? I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a man on the phone for you. He says he's your father. He sounds agitated." My heart stopped. My father. Calling me at work. After 10 years of silence, I picked up the phone. "Hello? Claire." His voice was gruff, but I heard something I had never heard before. Fear. "I need you to come to the house. Tonight. It's about your mother." I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Wanted to scream at him. But all I said was, "What time?" I drove to the big house that night in a car I had bought myself. A Tesla. It was quiet, sleek, and nothing like the gas guzzlers my father loved. I parked on the street. I didn't want to pull into the driveway. I wasn't ready for that. The house looked different. Tired. The paint on the shutters was peeling. The garden, once immaculate, was overgrown. My mother answered the door. She looked old. Her blonde hair was more gray now, pulled back in a hasty ponytail. She wasn't wearing makeup. For the first time in my life, she just looked like a tired, scared woman. "Claire," she said, and for a second, I thought she might hug me. She didn't. "Come in. Your father's in the study." I walked through the house. It was messy. Magazines piled up, dust on the tables. The big house was decaying from the inside. I in the study, my father was sitting behind his big desk. He looked smaller than I remembered. Defeated. Mark was standing by the window, his back to me. "Claire," my father said, gesturing to a chair. "Sit down." I didn't sit. "What's going on?" My father took a deep breath. He looked at Mark, who just shrugged. Then he looked back at me. "The bank is calling in our loans. All of them. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage for this house. We're going to lose everything." I blinked. I had expected a health scare. A family emergency. Not this. Mark turned around. He looked rough. His face was puffy, his shirt was wrinkled. "We need money, Claire. A lot of it. You have a job now, right? You're some kind of manager or something? We need you to co-sign a loan." A manager. I was some kind of manager. After all these years, that's all I was to them. "How much?" I asked, my voice flat. 200,000, my father said. "Just to stop the bleeding. Then we need another 300 to restructure. 500,000, total. We know it's a lot, but..." $500,000, I repeated. "We'll pay you back," my mother chimed in from the doorway. "Once the market turns, we'll be fine. Mark has some deals in the works. We just need a bridge." I looked at Mark. His deals. The same deals he'd been working on for 10 years. "And if I don't?" I asked. The room went silent. My father's face hardened. "Don't, Claire. This is your family. This is the house you grew up in. You have a duty." A duty. Something inside me, that cold, quiet clarity I felt at 21, came roaring back. I looked at them. My father, who told me I wasn't smart enough. My mother, who called my life's work a little hobby. My brother, who threw wine in my face and laughed at me. They didn't see a daughter. They didn't see a sister. They saw an ATM. A last resort. "I don't have $500,000, I said. Mark scoffed. "Then why are you even here? You're useless." Just like always. There it was. The word that had defined my entire life. Useless. "I don't have 500,000, I repeated, looking my father directly in the eye. "But I do have 5 million. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark's mouth fell open. My mother grabbed the doorframe for support. My father just stared, his face going pale. "You're lying," Mark whispered. "I'm not," I said. "I own a software company. We were acquired last year. I'm worth about 12 million now, actually. But I keep most of it in investments." My father stood up slowly. "Claire, how?" "You told me I wasn't smart enough for engineering school," I said, my voice calm and steady. "So I taught myself at night. You told me my computer hobby was a waste of time. So I built a company out of it. You threw me away because I didn't fit your image. And I succeeded anyway." My mother started to cry. Not sad tears, but desperate ones. "Claire, honey, we're so proud of you. We always knew you had it in you. We pushed you because we loved you." I almost laughed. It was the most pathetic thing I had ever heard. "I'm not here for your pride," I said. "And I'm not here to give you money." Mark stepped forward, his face red with anger. "You have to. You can't just let us lose the house. You owe us." I owe you? I looked at him, and for the first time I didn't feel hurt. I felt nothing. I owe you for the years of ridicule? For the wine in my face? For the Christmas dinners where I was the punchline? We're family, he yelled. Family doesn't treat one person like the garbage, I said quietly. But I'll tell you what I will do. They all leaned in, hope flickering in their eyes. I'm not giving you a loan, I said. But I am in the market for commercial real estate. I'm expanding my company's physical footprint. We need a new headquarters. My father looked confused. What does that have to do with us? I'm going to make an offer on this house, I said. At fair market value. You'll get enough to pay off your debts and have some left over. You won't be rich, but you won't be on the street. Relief washed over my mother's face. Oh, thank God. Thank you, Claire. But, I said, and the room went cold again. I'm not buying it as a house. I'm buying it as an office building. My office building. The first thing I'm going to do is knock down that wall between the dining room and the kitchen. I'm going to turn your formal living room into an open-plan cubicle farm. And your master bedroom, Mother? That's going to be the new break room. I'm going to put a ping-pong table right where your bed used to be. My mother gasped. My father looked like he'd been punched in the gut. You can't be serious, Mark whispered. I'm deadly serious, I said. You wanted me to be part of the family business? Well, now you are. I'm the business. And you're being evicted. I pulled a business card out of my pocket and placed it on my father's desk. That's my lawyer's number. He'll handle the paperwork. You have 60 days to vacate. I turned and walked out of the study. My mother was sobbing. My father was shouting something, but I didn't listen. I walked through the dusty hallways, past the faded photographs on the wall, and out the front door. The fresh air hit my face and I felt free. That was last week. Today, I'm sitting in my new office. It's a beautiful glass building downtown, but I'm not there right now. I'm sitting in a rental car, parked across the street from the old house. It's moving day. I watch as a beat-up moving truck pulls out of the driveway. My father is driving. My mother is in the passenger seat, her face pressed to the window. In the back of the truck, I can see their furniture, wrapped in blankets and tied down with rope. They're moving to a small apartment on the other side of town. Mark's car is already gone. He left last night, I heard. Moved in with some friend. He couldn't stand to be here for the final humiliation. The truck pauses at the end of the driveway. My father looks in his rearview mirror. For a second, I think he sees me. But he doesn't. He just pulls out into the street and drives away. I get out of my car. I walk up the driveway, past the overgrown garden, and up to the front door. My front door, now. I have the keys in my hand. New keys. My keys. I unlock the door and step inside. The house is empty. The echoes of 1,000 painful memories bounce off the bare walls. The spot where my brother threw his wine. The dining room chair where my father ignored me. The hallway where my mother whispered her disappointments. It's quiet. And it's mine. I walk into what used to be the formal living room. I pull out my phone and call my head of operations. Jen? It's Claire. The old property is clear. Send in the demolition crew tomorrow. I want that wall down by Friday. And Jen? Make sure they save me a piece of that wallpaper from the master bedroom. I want to frame it. She laughs. She thinks I'm joking. I'm not joking. I hang up the phone and stand in the middle of the empty room. I think about that 18-year-old girl, sitting at the dinner table, being told she wasn't smart enough. I think about the 21-year-old, being told her dreams were just a hobby. I think about the woman who drove a clunker car and lived in a bad neighborhood while building an empire. They said I was the useless daughter. They said I would never amount to anything. But I'm the only one who did. I'm the only successful one. And as I lock the door to my new office building, I don't feel anger. I don't feel hate. I just feel a deep, calm sense of peace. I didn't need their approval. I never did. I just needed to believe in myself. If you've ever been underestimated, you know exactly how this feels.